Thank you for coming today. That might seem weird to say, but last week I was at St. Paul's, where I normally am at, and St. Paul's in Prosper, and a kid in the youth groups asked if we were having church today, this Sunday, and I said, yes, we're having church, and he said, well, it's the Super Bowl. So thanks for not taking all day to pregame for the Super Bowl, I guess. I'm glad that Father Andrew and Father Logan had me come, especially on a baptism Sunday. It's such a special time, and I'm so happy to share this with y'all. This is great. I want to talk about one of my favorite clips. It's actually part of a television show that no longer exists, so it exists where everything else does on YouTube. And in this clip, Sean Brock, who is a celebrated American chef, who is from the Low Countries of South Carolina. He's world-renowned chef, and he's at this dive bar somewhere in South Carolina with celebrity chef, traveler, the late Anthony Bourdain. And they're sitting at this dive bar talking about great restaurants. And Sean Brock brings up Waffle House, which I don't bat an eye at that inclusion in the list of great restaurants. And Anthony Bourdain is incredulous as to how you could talk about, like, what are you talking about? Why are you bringing up Waffle House? And the chef Brock says, no, we're gonna go tonight. You've never been, you have to go, we're gonna go tonight. Cut to exterior of a Waffle House in the middle of the night somewhere in South Carolina. And they go in and they sit at this booth, and you see celebrity chef Anthony Bourdain holding that laminated menu and just looking at it like it's written in hieroglyphics. And Sean Brock begins ordering for them because Bourdain says, I know one thing I'm not gonna do is I'm not gonna order waffles at the Waffle House. And Sean Brock goes, yes, you are. You gotta have a pecan waffle. And you see, and Brock is talking about how going to the Waffle House as a kid is what made him want to become a chef. Watching people cook, watching them give hospitality to anybody who comes in there, regardless of their wealth or inebriation level, everyone gets the same thing. And you see Anthony Bourdain's countenance kind of change. And Sean Brock says, it's not the French Laundry, one of the great restaurants of the world. And Bourdain says, no, this is better than the French Laundry. This is better than the French Laundry. See, the wisdom of the world versus the wisdom of Christ, a different kind of wisdom, is what Paul has been talking about in 1 Corinthians 1. It's this long diatribe on God's wisdom versus the world's wisdom. And he's summing it up in 2, which is our passage from today. And at the beginning of 1 Corinthians 2, he's still in the middle of this thing where he's talking about, it's foolishness to the world. The cross is foolishness to the world. But I didn't come to you with any sort of glamour or wisdom or special teaching. I wasn't the best you've ever heard. I wasn't the most special or polished. But I decided that I would know nothing except for Christ and him crucified. And this is the most foolish thing to the world. It is the most counterfactual. It is the most at odds to how the world says things are supposed to go. The wisdom of the world, which is very much the wisdom of Prosper and Salina and McKinney, the wisdom of the world is that you can count on only what you earn. The only things you can really count on are the things that you did and you made and you got because you worked hard and you made it happen. That's what you can count on. And then if you're the best, you will get best. You will get the best. If you work harder than everybody else, you will achieve more than they do. This is the wisdom of the world that Paul is talking about. That your appearance, your intelligence, and your abilities, your aptitude, that's what really counts. You gotta find your thing, and you gotta do it better than everybody else does it. You can only get followers, grow your church, grow your business, grow whatever it is you're trying to build by being funnier, sharper, better, or more talented than the next person. And Paul says, that's the wisdom of the world, and the cross, which is foolishness to the world, shows that is foolishness. That whole thought process, that whole way of doing things is obsolete because it never really worked in the first place. It never really satisfies you in the first place, and yet we just keep doing it. And so Paul points out that the cross, even though it's foolishness to the world, is the real focus of what he's here to say. It would be so easy to downplay the cross. Many churches try to, and they'll skip right to Easter. Everything's great. Everything's beautiful. Nothing hurts. And they miss Good Friday. And Paul says, no. You don't understand. He wears the cross like it's a t-shirt of his favorite band. You have to see this. This is what it's all about. This is the main thing. Because he is emphasizing it in the strongest way, not sugarcoating it, not saying, oh yeah, that's this one thing, but we don't really talk about it. He wants to know nothing but Christ and him crucified, because the whole thing hinges on Good Friday. At that moment, God announces that the new creation has been made, and this is what it looks like. At that moment, God announces, this is who I've been all along. The God who suffers in order to forgive. This is who I am. In that moment, Paul realizes that a whole new world, a whole new way of understanding things has been revealed to be true. And now he has to tell everybody that he can about it. And there's no reason to skip over when it happened. It turns out the wisdom of the world has been now turned on its head for Paul. But it's not a wisdom, the cross is not a wisdom that sidesteps this and avoids the wisdom of the world. The cross for Paul is the thing that stands outside of this wisdom and points a finger at it and says, see how that's not working out? Don't you see that's not gonna work for you? Don't you see that's still gonna leave you empty and hollow? And don't you see that there's got to be something better than that? The cross is not just a sign point, it's the whole point. To align yourself with the cross is to preach Christ and him crucified, is to disrupt and confront the wisdom of the world and to show it as an emperor with no clothes. Because the world in all of its wisdom crucified God. So either it got something wrong, so it wasn't that wise in the first place, or the system was designed to work exactly the way it worked, and it crucified God. And this is what Paul is saying happened. He's saying that's where the wisdom of the world gets you. It gets you crucifying the Son of God, the Lord of glory. That's where it gets you. For Paul, the bloody and brutal cross is so incomprehensibly and paradoxically beautiful. For Paul, it's a scandal and a surprise. No eye has seen, no ear has heard, no heart of man imagined what God has prepared for those. He's not talking about the end of the world. For Paul, this is a prophecy about the cross. We couldn't have imagined this is how it was going to work out. That God would forgive us while we were still sinners. Everything has been transactional up to this point, and still, if we really think about it, we still often believe a transactional gospel. If we do good, God will bless us. If we pray more, God will bless us. If we go to church, God will take care of our family. This is the transactional gospel that we sometimes still believe. It's what every religion in the world has always preached. And the cross says, no, that's not how it works. That's not how it's ever worked, really. So Paul says the cross is the forefront of my message because the cross shows that grace comes before you even know you need it. That grace and blessing and favor come to you before you could possibly earn it because you can't possibly earn it. That grace, unearned, incongruous, the kind of grace you get before you even recognize you were wrong. This is the grace that God offers every single one of us. Preaching Christ and him crucified is preaching the love of God, the mercy of God available to every single human being, regardless of who they are, how much money they have, who their father was, what's been done to them and what they've done. None of this matters. It doesn't matter if you yelled at your kids on the way to church today. God has mercy and forgiveness available to you. It doesn't matter if you're going to yell at your spouse on the way to lunch in a few minutes. God has mercy on you and forgiveness available to you, to even you. It doesn't matter if there's that one thing in your life you can't stop doing that you know you shouldn't do. God has mercy and forgiveness already poured out on it. It doesn't matter if there's that one thing you know you should do that you can't make yourself do. His mercy and forgiveness is abundant, and it's already been given to you. And the cross is the sign. It is the whole point. So to avoid it, to say, I'm not going to preach Christ and him crucified, is to not preach grace, to not preach grace that came before we knew we needed it. God offers more to the worst possible person in the world than the wisdom of the world offers to the best. That's the message of the cross. My first day at seminary in Toronto, we did this like student orientation thing, which are always kind of a waste of time, kind of, I don't know. But so you all sit in a classroom and they put all the professors against a wall and they do, what's your name, what's your area of study, and then they ask all the professors that and they ask them, what's the best thing about the Bible? Which is a pretty lousy question, just my opinion. And I wasn't the only one who thought that, but icebreaker questions in general are pretty lame. So they go starting over here and the first person says, name, what they study, and every time I read a passage, I can get something new out of it. Great. Next person goes. Next person goes. At the very end of the line is this really, really old man. He's recently passed away. His name was David Dimson. David Dimson was there, and he had dedicated his whole life to the study of God. He's a theology professor. His professor was a guy named Karl Barth, who's one of the great theologians of the 20th century. So this is a man who has dedicated his life to the Bible and to studying theology and to teaching and raising up the leaders of the church. 3 or 4 people in on best thing about the Bible. He can't take it anymore, right? This person's about to answer, number 5 about to answer, and he just yells out, "It's the cross." What are we doing here? It's the cross. And this man, he's at the end of his life, a life dedicated to the Bible, a life dedicated to the service of God's church. And it's so apparent to him that the best thing about it is the cross. It's Christ and him crucified. So, as we plant a church in Salina, which for a number of reasons is the right place to plant. It's growing at about 28 people a day. As we plant a church in Salina, there are tons of people there who don't know about grace and about the cross. So maybe plant a church. Maybe pray for a church that has decided to know nothing except for Christ and him crucified. Amen.